I'm Jay. This is Sue. If you didn't know, you obviously knew because you signed up. So our first demo dog this morning is a Doodle, and this Doodle's already short, but we're going to take him even shorter, just to show some balance and different things you can do with this type of coat, because everybody knows these dogs are so popular, and they come in all different shapes and sizes.
Colors, everything, and he can be yours for just a mere $3,500.
Right. So when you get the designer breeds in like this that they pay $3,000 for or whatnot, you really need to have them come in very often, because they paid so much for this designer breed. You want to make sure they have a designer haircut, so they're like in every 2 weeks. Like, I promise you, all my Doodles are in once a week for a bath. So because they mat up so bad. The other option is they can bring it in whenever they want to, and they'll get this done to it, which is the 7F, because they're going to be matted to the skin. So they can either do it often or get the 7F.
I have to say, in the years that since the Doodles have become popular, there's a lot less 7Fs now, because I think we finally have people on a good maintenance schedule, like Jay said, where they come in more often, and then you're able to do a little bit of style with them. So. But basically, like, we do Doodle seminars all the time, and they're, so many times they're just a strip, because that's really what people are doing. But we just want to show you that you can put a little bit of style into it and still make it a very easy maintenance trim. And this one's got like maybe he's a Woodle. I don't know. He's kind of Wheaton-y looking, poodle-y kind of coat.
And he's drooling already, so he's probably...
Yeah, but he's a happy boy.
Yeah, he's
right,
happy.
Grizz?
He's good.
So we can start right in. So I'm using, this is the KM cordless by wall, which is really nice when you're doing demos. We don't have to worry about where to plug in and all that stuff. So that's really fantastic. And I always use the stainless steel combs. When Jay and I do seminars, I work for Wall. I also work with Kenchi with their shears and everything. When we do demos, we're really not up here to promote any one product, but we tell you what we use because we like what we use. Years ago, we weren't able to even mention names of products, and I think that's kind of crazy, because that's a good reason why people are sitting here with notebooks, because they're writing down everything. So I just don't want to make it sound like it's an infomercial for anything. We want it to be informative as far as grooming, so it's going to help you. But this is the cordless clipper, which is really nice. It's got a lot of good power. And the thing I like with the stainless steel combs is we can do all of this work in half the amount of time of what it would have taken for us to scissor a dog, and still be able to give them a little style. So normally, when I have a new client come in, I like to start with the 0, which is the yellow one, like the 1/2-inch comb. I always use a 30 blade under mine. You never ever want to use a 40 blade. You probably heard this before, but if you're new, never use a 40 blade under your stainless steel combs, because they're a little narrower and they won't fit the blade, and you'll break the teeth on your 40 blade. So you can use a 15, a 10, whatever. I like the trim that I get with a 40 blade. To me, it feels like it goes through smoother. So with him, I usually like to start with like a 0, especially if it's a new client, and I don't want to really go too short. I want them to, it's not that I'm trying to get them to come back sooner. It's more that I don't want to shock them. So if a dog comes in, for me, a 0 is kind of a nice safe blade to start with. Because this guy is already pretty short, I'm actually going to go to the next shorter one. I'm going to do a 1 on him. So I'm going to start like right up behind his ears, because we're going to leave the head on him. So I'm going to start right up in here.
Sue, she requested you only take this much off. That's the Doodle people that come in. They're like, only take this much off, which is impossible to do.
Especially if they're matted. So as I come down, now I'm still thinking, even though it's a mixed breed, which clients hate when you call them that, so if you don't like the dog and you don't want them to come back, that's what you say. Well, with this particular mixed breed, but even with these guys, you still want to have balance, you still want to have parallel lines, unless you're doing like Asian fusion where anything goes. So I still want to give him a nice outline. So as I come down here, I want to come straight down and just kind of, and with these snap-on combs, you can skim off a lot of length on your legs.
So this just makes it a lot smoother transition from your neck to your shoulder to your leg. So a lot of times if you come down on any breed you're working on and you just stop at the elbow, then it's hard to make that nice smooth transition. So even though she's using the shorter snap-on comb, when she gets to this point, she's just lifting the comb away from the coat, and that allows you to blend a little bit easier and gives you less, or makes it where you have less scissor work to do at the end. Now most of your doodles, or most of the ones I do, are this big for whatever reason. We have a bunch of, I think the same breeder bred a bunch of dogs where we live, and everybody bought them because they're the big ones with the real thick coat that won't dry, and they have the big bushy faces that drool all the time and the stringy ears. So when you're doing corrective grooming on the doodles, because they're all so different, try to keep that in mind. Most of them don't have a whole lot of neck, and most of them are high in the rear. So this one actually has a pretty level top line. But if you work so hard to try to correct those faults, a lot of times you'll just waste too much time. And the client, I mean, a lot of the doodles that look like they've have a natural saddle on their back because they're so weighed down, have the big sway back because they're so long in body. Even if you leave a little bit longer hair in the middle, that'll level them out some, but you can't spend a whole lot of time to try to make them have a level top line because you'll never get that look unless you leave a lot of hair to compensate for it.
So, and I usually start by like behind the ear, so I'm taking all of this. I'm going to leave a little bit of neck on him right now. So we're going to blend that in, but like I said, I want to give him a little bit of style. And I find with a lot of the dogs that you're doing, when you're doing, even if you're doing like a strip down, I like to leave a little bit of an underline on them. So as I come down the rib cage, I just let my clipper drop off from underneath. And even, like I said, even if you're doing a strip, the underline is kind of what connects your dog, that keeps them from looking like a freight train. You know, you don't want them to look super long. So if I leave this little bit right here, this is what's going to connect the front of the back to the back of the dog. When you take all of this off, then it just kind of makes them look long. So this little underline right here is just going to kind of pull him all together. And when I start, like I kind of skim in from the neck, and you want to try to make it like one nice long stroke at a time, and that will give you a smoother trim. Now you see Jay just gave him like a quick spray and then a fluff up again. And usually once you do that, you just have to go over the dog like a second time after you fluff him up, and that's a really nice finish on him. So you don't have to scissor everything, you don't have to go back and blend anything, so you can do so much of that with your snap-on comb.
So, and this is just an anti-stat spray, but you can use anything. You can put water in a bottle, put some conditioner in it, but just a little bit of moisture in the coat when you're clipping is going to keep the coat from moving around a lot on you. So you're going to have less track marks, less scissor marks at the end of the day. And you want to be real careful. The doodle coats, depending on what type of coat it is, the ones that are real hard to dry and they get real curly right at the base that, you know, it's hard to get a good lift on, you want to make sure when you get that dog out of the tub and you dry it, that it's dried down to the skin, because in the process of the time that it takes you to groom it, they start to curl back up. So my solution to those dogs like that, and we could even do it on this one at the end if you wanted to, is if you have a dog that tends to get curly, you know, or starts to curl up while you're grooming it, like where we live, we have a lot of humidity, so you can see the coat kind of shrink up. You can do what we do with a Kerry Blue, where you pack the coat, or like a Portuguese water dog. So once you clip it, if it still has that tacky look, if you take, like, say, I don't want the legs to be sprayed, or I don't want the legs to curl up, but you can spray the body with water, or just a conditioning spray or anti-stat spray while you're working on the legs. And when you spray it, you just want to mist it and pack it in, and by the time you do the legs, that coat on its body will naturally start to curl up, and it looks really cool. It looks like you did some amazing trickery. You know what I'm saying, Sue?
Not
Are you listening?
Was he talking?
It does work, though. So it just gives them a lot of texture, and it looks like it's supposed to be, you know, like it grew that way.
One of my big doodles that comes in, the very first time she came in, the wife wanted the way the dog looked right now. So she sends her husband out to the car to bring in the iPad, and they pull up pictures of doodles.
That's
and
the worst.
They're all matted. They're all dirty. Like all these pictures, they're all curly and everything. And so I just looked at, I said, you want him to look like that? I guarantee you're not going to be happy when I'm done, because he's going to be clean, he's going to be fluffed, and I explained the whole procedure to her. But now every time the dog is done, I do exactly what he said, even after I'm done scissoring the head, because you're going to get a nicer finish if you fluff him first and then scissor him. But after I'm done with the head, I like give him a good spritz, and I just kind of crunch it, and it brings back a lot of wave and a lot of curl. It also, if you don't have really great scissoring techniques, it kind of hides all that too. But it brings back enough of the curl that it makes her happy. So because what do they say? Don't make it look like a poodle. And I'm sorry, I'm a poodle breeder, and that my response really wants to be, no way in hell is that dog ever going to look like one of mine. But I don't say that, because I actually really like my doodles. It's the people that don't mind spending $3,000 on a dog, but then don't want to spend $100 to get it groomed, and then they're giving you a hard time about it. So the doodles that come to my shop, I enjoy, and I think they're absolutely adorable. And I kind of like the variety of it, because some of them, I've got wiry ones. We've got a doodle that looks exactly like a golden retriever, same coat, same color, everything, but when you put your hands on it, it's the structure of a poodle underneath. So I'm sure that was something they didn't count on.
What drives me crazy is there's a famous doodle on Instagram, and all my clients show me this picture of this dog, and you can tell it's matted. Yeah, you can tell the dog's matted, by looking at it as a groomer, and everybody wants their dog to look like that. I'm like, I wouldn't let anything go out of my shop or mobile looking like that because it looks so terrible, but they all want it. So I look at them like they have four heads when they tell me they want it to be groomed that way. Or I say something smart aleck like, oh, well, I'd like for my wife to look like Eva Longoria, too, but she doesn't. So don't film that. My wife would kill me.
Your wife doesn't like you enough to watch what we're doing.
True.
So So now I'm starting like right up under his chin. So I just kind of lift him up. So I pull the ear forward, and I'm going to follow that line from the back of one ear all the way down around to the back of the other ear.
And as many faults as these dogs have, most of them do as far as the conformation goes. If you do a neat trim on the body, just nice and neat, and a cute head, then you'll have doodle clients coming like crazy. So.
And then again, like I said, to give him a little bit of style, so his breastbone is right here. So I'm going to come down and I kind of skim off like right at the breastbone. But I'm going to do like an inverted V. So I'm not going to leave all this stuff on the front part of his shoulder, but from that point of shoulder, where you going? From that point of shoulder, it's okay, buddy. I'm going to take all of this off in front. So if you leave all of this chest hair, it makes them look really wide coming at you. It's going to make them look like a bulldog. So
it also makes them look longer in body, so you can see, like, if I push my hand here where she's cut the rear end off, we're just shortening them up from front to back. So, and most of these dogs are really long from front to back anyway, so it makes a big difference by taking this off. And a lot of times, especially if you're a new groomer, this is the area here and where Sue's working that people are kind of afraid to go in and cut. The first thing I do is I block in the front of my dog and the back of my dog just to shorten them up and then try to bring everything together. But the biggest problem we see, especially with new groomers, is they leave so much back here, it almost looks like they're wearing pants instead of showing this angle on the back. And 90% of the breeds we want to show the angulation in the back or on the rear end.
Yeah, just turn him and block in this side. That's a boy. Good job. So by leaving this little bit of a bib here, this is what's going to connect underneath here. So that's going to be what's going to kind of help tie him all together. And like I said, I'm not leaving enough hair that's going to cause a lot of matting. Usually the matting is all in the friction areas, so the elbows, the armpits, even inside here. Anywhere where there's movement in rubbing and everything is a lot of times what causes the matting. So I follow the rib cage all the way around and just let it drop off from underneath. And then bring my line all the way down. So the same thing in the back legs. I want to still have the parallel line. So standing directly behind him. It's okay, buddy. I come down to that bend in the leg. So this not only gives him like a cute little butt, but it helps you carve in the angulation. And it's going to make the customer happy because I'm removing the hair he's going to be pooping on. So usually the customer looks at the face, they want to see that the eyes are clean and around the mouth is clean, and then they look at the butt. They don't really see what's going on in between. So by doing this, I'm taking also away the hair that tends to mat in this area. And I go to, when you pick up the leg, where that bend is in the back of the leg, that's where I'm going to skim out at that point. And then standing directly behind him. Now he's another one. His hock bones here are facing each other, which means his knees are going to turn out. So I'm just going to if you pick him up and just gently put him back down again, that's kind of be, can you, where are we? Turn me away a little bit more. Towards you, his head. So can you see how he's standing? So by standing directly behind him, and I still want to get my parallel line in, instead of following the way his leg grows, if I'm standing here, if his hocks are facing in, it means his knees are turning out. So I just take my comb and I skim forward, and then you can see what a nice straight leg that you can get by doing that. So even on the mixed breeds, I still want to try to get as nice a conformation as I possibly can. And, when the customer's not going to have any idea that you did that you carved in angulation or you straightened out crooked legs or anything like that. They just know that the dog looks better than it ever has before, and that's really all they need to know. But for me, it makes grooming more interesting. I think I have more fun with grooming when I try to do stuff like that, and I think it's, you hear about groomer burnout all the time, and I think it's the people that are doing nothing but shave downs. They don't get to experiment. They don't get to use their artistic ability at all if you're just following the dog and doing the same thing day in and day out. So by taking in a dog like this and trying to straighten out his conformation or try to make him look as straight as possible, it just kind of, to me, it kind of opens up our creative flair a little. So I lift up his leg. I'm going to just skim out. And I come down about the same distance on the inside that I did on the back of the leg here. And again, skimming straight down off of here. Then I'm going to switch.
You know what drives me crazy?
What?
Sue? All my buddies that call me up and say, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what kind of dog we just bought. And 9 times out of 10, it's a Doodle.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh. And then they think because that's what we do as a job that we would just love to groom them for whatever reason, cheap. So, doesn't that drive you crazy? Like all your relatives, like my mother-in-law calls me all the time. Jay, Shelby needs to be groomed. Well, she bought this designer dog, paid like $5,000. It's one of those teddy bear dogs or whatever. And the dog's so it's all like this, and you try to pull its arm out, and it's and she wants me to groom it. So the last time she wanted me to do it, I told her I was sick, and I really did. So she took it somewhere. And last weekend, we went to her house for my daughter's birthday party, and I walk in, I see the dog, I'm like, oh my gosh. And she used to do hair, so I was like, did you do her yourself? She's like, no, I took her down the street and had her done. She's like, but we're not using anybody else but you anymore. And I'm like, well, thanks, because I do it for freaking free every 3 weeks. I'm like, no, she looks great. But her body was I could tell the girl couldn't even touch her legs. The body was this big, and it was all chopped to pieces. And it was rough, but, she thinks I should just jump at the snap of her fingers to come groom her dog. That I told her not to get, by the way.
Family is fun. So now I'm going to switch, and I'm going to go actually 2 lengths longer on the legs. So I switched to the A comb, which is blah, blah, blah inches. Because I have my contacts in and I can't see that little print, but it's the lavender colored comb. So now I'm just going to go over his legs using the comb. So I'm going to come right down, skim all of this stuff. That's a boy, it's okay.
Now, if you've noticed the whole time, I've been combing for Sue, but the whole time I've never taken, in this, depending on what kind of coat type you're working on, I've never taken the comb and gone from the toe all the way up or from the back all the way forward, because this coat, even though it's a fluffy coat, it's not like a poodle coat, but if you comb it in the opposite direction that the coat grows and then you clip it, once the coat relaxes, you're going to start to see little chop marks in the coat. So whenever I'm doing a coat like this, I always just lift it in the direction that it normally will, it kind of grows out, but it doesn't grow straight up. So I lift it, and then we cut it, so when it naturally falls or the coat relaxes, it's going to be even, as opposed to doing this where I go from the bottom all the way up to the top and then clip it, and it's okay. Twice as short as you want it to be.
Now, when I come down the front leg, I'll hold that little stopper pad in the back of the foot, so I have kind of a nice, clean, straight line. and I kind of skim off the top of the foot. I don't like to like really shave off the very front part of the foot because then you kind of lose that column leg and it's going to look more like a foot. So I just kind of skim off in that area. So I'm right down to the skin on the sides, all around the back. But you can leave just a little bit of hair just kind of in the toe area, and that will kind of help you give it a little bit cuter of a column look.
If you do that side, I'll do this side.
Huh?
If you do this side, I'll do that side while you're doing this side.
Yeah, but you might screw up your side and make my dog look
You're
bad.
right. You're right. Why are y'all laughing and encouraging her? And we have to do this all day long.
So, and I took this comb and I actually skimmed right off of his chest. So I took that little bib down just a little bit.